When I got here, I think DFW was the 9th largest airport in the world. Today, we're the 3rd largest airport in the world.
First off, let's talk about the beginning. Do you remember what your first month was here? What was your earliest memory?
I do. It's an interesting story, actually. When I arrived, 2 things happened in the first month. I started around November 1st. Early December, we had an ice storm. And I have come to find out, rarely do we get snow in the Dallas-Fort Worth region. But if we get an inch of ice, it shuts down the whole area, right? And it shut down the airport. I think we had an inch of ice, and I grew up in the Northeast. I'm used to snow. I'd rather have a foot of snow than an inch of ice. So I remember that. The other one was, I probably hadn't been here more than 2 weeks, and I get a call from the Chamber of Commerce. And the CEO says, you got to meet with about 12 people, and I can't tell you who they are. And I said, well, come on, you got to tell me. And he said, I can't tell you, you have to sell the heck out of the airport to these people. I'd only been here less than a month, so I wasn't an encyclopedia on DFW Airport yet. But I met with the people, tons of questions, and about 6 weeks later, Toyota announced they were moving their headquarters, and that's who I had met with. I didn't know it, but that's who I met with.
Did you ever think it would be this size?
When I got here 12 years ago, no.
12 years ago.
And we've grown by 50%. And when I got here, I think DFW was the 9th largest airport in the world. Today, we're the 3rd largest airport in the world. When you're already big, it's harder to grow because you already have that scale. So for us to be able to grow 50% in 12 years, again, it's a reflection on the region. I mean, the region has grown, and economically, the region continues to be very, very strong, as you know, and we have to stay ahead of that growth.
How do you stay ahead of it? Talk to me about what's happening right now.
We stay ahead of it by trying to make the right investments. So we have a $10 billion capital program over the next 5 or 6 years. I think, as you know, we're building our 6th terminal, Terminal F. That will add more gates, allow for growth. Equally important, and probably one of the things I'm least proud of my 12 years, is we're finally going to tear down and rebuild Terminal C. It desperately needs it. It's our oldest terminal. I apologize to everyone that we haven't done it sooner, but we're going to rebuild that terminal. It will be just as beautiful as this terminal. And then we're going to continue to invest in other infrastructure projects at the airport, because I'm not going to predict the next 10 years, but it sure feels like the success story of North Texas and Texas is going to continue. And we're such an economic engine for the region. We've got to make sure, as I said, we stay ahead of it, because if we're equal to it, we could actually be a constraint. We can never be a constraint.
And what do you think is the biggest challenge moving forward?
Well, over the next 10 years, in terms of DFW and the region, I would say just ensuring that we have the infrastructure for all of this growth. And the one that actually concerns me the most is power, is electricity. And when you think of all these data centers, and AI data centers are going to be built in Texas, and the power they were going to need, we're going to double our power needs in 5 years at the airport. And there's just going to be this enormous growth. And I hope, and I know the state and ERCOT is very focused on this, that there's enough power generation and transmission so that we've got the power to, fund the growth. We've made the decision to build a microgrid at DFW. It will be solar powered, battery technology, not the entire airport. We could never do a microgrid big enough for our airport, but that buys down some of our risk, and it builds in resiliency. We can never have what happened at London Heathrow last month happen at DFW, where they lost power for a day and they had to shut down. We've been making investments for 10 years. We have 4 separate substations at this airport. We're building a 5th. Resiliency is really important, and I would say that's probably one of our big challenges.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We talked about the challenges, but let's get into the good.
Right.
What are you most proud of?
I'm probably most proud of, when I got here, DFW was a very, very well-run airport, had a great reputation. Nothing was broken. It was really a well-run airport. What struck me, though, was it wasn't well known globally. It was well known, and the region was well known as an economic powerhouse, growing, people are moving to North Texas. But when we travel internationally and we promote the airport and promote the region, people didn't know the DFW story. I kid you not. We'd be in London or we'd be in Asia and they'd say, "Where are you from?" "We're from Dallas, Fort Worth." I say, "Oh, I love that show, Dallas." And I thought to myself, if that's what people think the Dallas-Fort Worth region is based on a 30-year-old show, we've doubled our international service out of here. And now we're the fastest growing big airport in the U.S. in terms of international service. And we literally can fly you almost anywhere on the globe nonstop. And that's probably what I'm most proud of.
Yeah, and you should be. I read, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's the 3rd largest in the world, or 4th?
3rd busiest airport in the world.
3rd busiest
Right.
airport in the world.
Right.
I mean, could you ever imagine that?
12 years ago, I wouldn't have. But again, it doesn't happen just because of the airport. We are so connected with the region. And, I say this to the folks in the business community and the chamber. They'll say, "Oh, we're probably going to grow 4 or 5% a year." And I keep saying, "Man, you can't just keep growing 4 or 5% a year." I'm wrong. We continue to keep growing as a region economically 4 or 5% a year. And that's pretty amazing. And so we're connected at the hip with Dallas, Fort Worth, and the region economically.
Did you ever face any pushback as you're planning for the future and thinking bold and thinking big? Were there ever naysayers that said, slow down, I think you're taking it too far"?
I don't really remember that. I mean, we've got a great board of directors. They're incredibly supportive of us. There's always a natural tension between airports and airlines because airlines pay the operating costs of the airport. There are no taxpayer funds at an airport. The cities in Dallas and Fort Worth own us, but they don't put a dime into the airport. We're self-funded. So airlines, typically don't want airports to go overboard because they have to pay most of those costs. We are so fortunate that we have American. American, has done an amazing job being a partner of us and investing in DFW. And we've got a great partnership with them, a great relationship. We've got credibility. A lot of other airports around the country, the airlines and the airport kind of fight. Here, we really are aligned, and I think that's enabled a lot of the successful growth.
The pandemic was definitely a time of change on so many levels. And you mentioned some other airports haven't fully recovered from that, and you have here. What was the secret sauce, or what do you think was done right here to fully recover?
Well, we were fortunate in many ways that, I remember in the summer of 2020, a couple months into the pandemic, for 6 months we were the busiest airport in the world. Because people in this region started saying, "You know what, I got to get out of here. I got to travel. I want to go somewhere." And we had nothing to do with that. But we made some decisions during the pandemic, I think, that were really important, that enabled us to grow when travel started to return. Number one, from an employee perspective, within a couple weeks of the pandemic, I went out to all 2,100 of our employees and I said, no one's going to lose their job. No one's going to lose pay or benefits. You can go home and tell your family it's okay. Number two, when you walk the concourse, you see all these concessions. Most of the restaurants and retail, most of them are owned by small companies, local, minority, women-owned companies. We lost 95% of our revenues and traffic in 2 weeks when the pandemic. There's no way they would have survived. So we made the decision to waive all their rental fees for the first 18 months. We walked away from $70 million, but when the pandemic was over, 98% of our concessionaires were still open. And they were able to serve our customers when the customers came back. And then third, we kept building during the pandemic. We added more gates. We created, I think, 3,500 construction jobs during the pandemic because it was the perfect time to do work because the traffic wasn't here. We weren't as busy. But luckily, when we came out of the pandemic, we had done all that work and it enabled us to handle the growth that came with it.
Yeah. Whoever fills your role, it seems they've taken something that's in pretty good hands now. What advice do you have if there were 2 or 3 top things for the upcoming CEO?
Well, similar to when I came here, things were in good hands when I started. There's a great foundation here. It starts with our employees. We've got wonderful employees, 2,100 employees, 70,000 people work at this airport. Everyone takes pride in working here. We're aligned with all of our partners, but it's always good to get a fresh set of eyes. It's always good to get a new perspective. It's always good for someone to come in and say, I might prioritize this. That makes airports, it makes companies, it makes things, incrementally better. So probably the one piece of advice is don't be shy about bringing a new perspective to the airport. I don't think you have to start from ground zero or tear things down, but there's always opportunities for improvement.
Yeah. As you look back, is there anything that you would do differently?
Good question. Nothing really jumps out at me on that. I mean, clearly there are things we can do better at this airport. Probably the one thing would have to push harder to tear down and rebuild Terminal C. It just desperately needs it, and we waited too long to do that. And we finally came to an agreement with American on that because it's their terminal. I wish we had done that sooner, but we're attacking that issue as we speak.
Let's talk about retirement.
Okay.
Why now?
41 years in aviation is probably enough. It's a demanding 24/7, 365 day a week or day a year industry. Things happen literally around the clock. So 41 years feels like it's enough. And then on a family front, our 5 children and our first grandchild live up in the Boston area, so we're going to move up there and spend a lot of quality time with them. I tell people I'm very happy to trade my CEO title to Grandpa.
Oh, that'll be a lot of fun. 12 years ago, did you ever imagine this level of growth?
I didn't, but a lot of the credit goes to the leaders of Dallas and Fort Worth and the region, the state of Texas. We're just trying to stay up with the growth of the region, and it's been phenomenal to see. I don't think I would have expected the region to keep growing like it did, but it has, and we have to keep up with that growth, and we have to actually be ahead of that growth. And it's been great to see. People are just moving in droves down here. Companies are relocating here, as you know, and I'm terrible at predicting the future, but sure feels like it's going to continue.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say that's a safe bet, right?
Yes.
Anything else you want to share?
No, it's going to be bittersweet for me. I'm going to miss everybody here at the airport. Again, a great team, great employees, a lot of friends down here. You know, there is definitely something to be said about Texas hospitality and welcoming, and so we're going to miss that, but we're really excited to be back with our family, and I'm going home. I grew up in Massachusetts, so bittersweet that we're leaving so many good people down here, but also really happy to be with our family.